This is At Home with ADTS, a show that presents topics of interest to older adults, individuals with disabilities, and their caregivers. At Home highlights the services and programs offered by Aging, Disability, and Transit Services of Rockingham County.
Welcome to this edition of At Home with ADTS, a program about supports and services offered by Aging, Disability, and Transit Services of Rockingham County. I'm Asheley Cooper, Director of Community Outreach and Development at ADTS. ADTS has been in operation in Rockingham County since 1973. Our goal is to assist and link senior adults, people with disabilities, and their families with information, opportunities, and services that promote and enhance quality of life, as well as working to meet the local transportation needs of Rockingham County residents. We would like to give a special thank you to United Way of Rockingham County for their long time and generous support for our Meals on Wheels program. United Way of Rockingham County brings together local people to help raise local dollars to meet local needs, and we want to thank everyone who's contributed over the years. According to AARP Caregiving Report in 2020, an estimated 41.8 million adults are caregivers. Half of these caregivers are adult children of aging parents. 75% report feeling a need for more help with information or about caregiving, a demand that has increased in the most recent years. Today, we're going to discuss a unique educational and support group for adult children of aging parents, conveniently called ACAP, which stands for Adult Children of Aging Parents. Our guest is Frances Hall, and she is the founder and executive director of the ACAP community. Thank you, Frances, for joining us today.
Thank you. This is a delight and truly my privilege.
Thank you very much. We're excited to share this wonderful resource with our community. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at ACAP?
Sure. I have lived in North Carolina for about 20 years, a little over 20 years, but I actually grew up in Alabama and did my undergrad and graduate work in Georgia. So I'm one of the many transplants here in North Carolina. But my background is higher education and nonprofit. I worked in student services, your dean of students, housing, counseling, those kinds of roles, as well as doing alumni and development for my undergrad alma mater. I also worked with the Upper Room, the part of the Methodist Church, United Methodist Church, for a while and traveled literally all over the country and to South Africa and Mozambique also. So, but in very honestly, doing Upper Room, I started doing prison ministry and met my husband, who was the prison chaplain. And so several years after meeting him, we married, and I inherited a wonderful family of an extended family, but specifically 3 adult children, and now their spouses, and now we have 3 grandchildren. So I am a grandmother of 3 and never expected to be. My role with ACAP is that I am the founder and executive director, which basically means that my role is to help ACAP become stronger and to grow. And so there are lots of plates spinning all the time.
I'm sure. Anytime you have the title executive director, there's always tons of plates spinning. So what exactly is ACAP?
Okay. At its core, ACAP is an educational program. ACAP is a 501c3 nonprofit, and our mission is to provide information, resources, support, and community for adult children as they care for their aging parents and for themselves. So both parts of that. But although ACAP is designed for adult children, all of our programs, all of our resources are open to everyone. So we typically have spouses and siblings and friends, as well as professionals who attend the programs. Typically, We also have within that the structure is through local chapters. So so we have chapters in North Carolina and Pennsylvania. We are starting the chapter in Georgia, and probably will be in Texas in another year or two, and Virginia in another year or two. So we're definitely growing. The programs that we offer through the chapters each month are typically in person, but we, like everybody else, with COVID, had to pivot. And so we have been doing virtual programs for the last 2 years, but are getting ready, in fact, this week to start our in-person programs again, or to resume in-person programs again. In addition to the monthly programs that chapters do, though, we also have a video library because we now video all of the programs, all of our monthly programs. We also have been doing audio podcasts since I think 2015. So we have like 50 or more audio podcasts. We do one a month of those also. And we also have books and blogs and planning to do all kinds of other support for caregivers on our website. One of the things that I would want people to know is that all of our programs are at no cost to participants. We never want any ACAP program to be prohibitive for someone because of money.
Mhm. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So, typically during a program, do you follow any sort of um, agenda, or how exactly is a meeting structured?
Yes, very definitely. Typically, and we're in this flux of, we know how it is to do an in-person program. We know how it is to do a virtual program. Now we are going to be doing hybrid programs, both in person and virtual. And so we're still not quite sure how all this is going to work. But typically the program starts in the evenings, so many caregivers are working full time, and so we want it to be at times that they can be there. So we start the program 5:30, 6:30, somewhere in there typically. People get there when they first are arriving. We have refreshments as long as we can do that with COVID and it's safe for people to take masks off and that sort of thing. So for about 30 minutes or so, people are gathering, they're having refreshments. We have a slide deck going on of different information about caregiving and about ACAP programs and that sort of thing. So when the program begins, we have about 10 or 15 minutes of introductions and welcome and those kinds of things. And during that time, we have sponsors for programs, and the sponsors, who are local businesses and agencies and organizations, they not only can have a table there, but they also they have 2 to 3 minutes to talk to the entire group and just tell them, what do they do? Because we know the sponsors not only support the chapters, but they also are wonderful resources for people. And so much of ACAP is, where do I turn? Who can help? So that's part of what the sponsors do. So after about 10 or 15 minutes of the welcome and introductions and the sponsor speaking, then the presenter comes and speaks. Our presenters are local content experts. So for example, it would be an elder law attorney who would be talking about legal documents everyone needs. It would be the person in the community who does the driving evaluations, who would be talking about retiring from driving. It would be a therapist or a social worker who would be talking about family dynamics and those kinds of issues. So those are the speakers that we have. Typically, the programs in person are a total of 90 minutes. They start at 5:30 and they end at 7. Typically, also, people will stay and either talk among themselves or talk with our sponsors or talk with the speaker after the program. So in a real nutshell, typically the programs are about 90 minutes. Again, with online, they've been 60 minutes. So we're not quite sure at this point exactly which is really going to work better for
Sure.
people.
Well, I love the fact that you offer opportunity for caregivers to interact with each other. Quite often we find that caregiving is such a lonely process or journey, and they feel like they're the only ones going through it. So it's a great opportunity that they can connect and fellowship with each other, because a lot of times they are going through the same things, and they can offer insight and support through that. So that's a great option. I think a lot of times people forget the value of that and just want to share information. So you guys really hit all the key components to supporting caregivers. But I'm curious, why did you choose to focus on adult children of aging parents?
Because I laughingly say that I created ACAP for me, and it just happens that lots of other people have found it to be meaningful. Um, my mother had moved to North Carolina at the age of 89 from the home she grew up in Alabama, tiny town, Alabama. And I had always wanted to be her caregiver. I knew that I would be, and I always wanted to. When she needed help, I would be there. So she moved. We realized, oh, Toto, we are not in Kansas anymore. This is much more difficult than either of us ever anticipated that it would be. And so this whole thing really came about because I was trying to care for her. And although she was still fairly independent, there were more and more things happening. And I was realizing the need for me to be much more front and center. And I started hearing I was working at Lenore Ryan University at that point, and I was hearing more and more faculty and staff talking about they're trying to care for their parents, whether they lived in the home with them or across town or across the nation. That it's like, how do we do this? And what I realized is that we who are the adult children, we're going to be front and center. We're going to be the primary caregivers. Beyond the spouse, we are going to be the primary caregivers. And there is just such huge impact. So that's why it really focused on the adult child, is not only that was my scenario and my mother cared for her mother, and it was certainly her scenario, but I was hearing more and more that there is real need. How do we do this?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I know when I started in aging 12, 15 years ago, it was mainly caregivers were spouses. Very rarely would you get a call from an adult child asking about services and supports for their family or for their parents. And then over the years, we're starting to see a radical shift into adult children caring for their aging parents. And I'm so thankful that there are resources and that people are recognizing that and are really trying to help with that. And I too am a caregiver of my mother, who has suffered a traumatic brain injury. And though she's become more independent over the years, I too started a support group because I wanted some people to talk to me. So I understand what you mean when you say that when you know that there's options, that you want to share that with others. And I know that I'm not alone in my journey. And so there's other people who've walked it, and I'd like to hear how they have walked it and been successful. So thank you for doing that. But I also know that anytime an adult child takes on responsibilities for caring for their parent, it brings up a lot of complexities and challenges. Could you kind of address that or describe some of those?
You and I both know there is nothing new about caring for parents. Nothing. This has been, we can go back, through the eons and find demonstrations of that. But there are some nuances and some new features of this that add to that complexity. One is just the sheer number of people, that people are living longer. And so there are more of us who are aging and might need care or do need care. But because there are more older people, they are more frail. And because they are older, that means their adult children are older also. All people are caregiving own their own health issues, trying to care for someone with health issues. And so that's a dynamic that we haven't had as much in the past because people didn't live as long. We also definitely have the dynamic of the women's role having changed so dramatically that it used to be that the woman was the stay-at-home mother, caregiver for the older adult. There was the extended family who lived nearby. Everybody pitched in, particularly the women. Now we're not living among our extended family, number one. Number two, the women are in the workforce, and the workforce is dependent on women, and families are dependent on women working, on that person bringing in income. And so that adds a huge layer of complexity to being a caregiver, because the caregivers are truly the backbone of our healthcare system. Mm-hmm. Again, it used to be that people were in the home and all of that, but people now are being sent home in conditions that used to be cared for only by a nurse or a doctor or in a hospital. Well, now you have surgery and you go home, within X number of hours. And almost regardless, within reason, regardless of the condition. And so caregivers are providing all kinds of medical intervention and medical support that they haven't in the past needed to do. There's certainly, you talked about the number of people who are caring for people over 50 and the number of people who are adult child caregivers. 61% work outside the home. So they have their full-time job, part-time, full-time job. But in addition to that, they are across the board. Caregivers are providing 20 hours of a week in caregiving. If there is dementia, that's 40 hours a week just with caregiving. That means that somebody who is working a full-time 40-hour job, let's say, also is working a part-time or a full-time job just with the caregiving. That's huge.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's another job. It's another job on top of what responsibilities families are already carrying.
It is. It is. It is. And so because of that extra job in caregiving, people are coming to their work late. They are absent more. They are having to make really tough decisions about, do I continue working? Do I not continue working? Do I step away? And what's the financial impact if I step away? I was truly fortunate that when I married, I had a husband who was very supportive. And so I had the option of stopping work at 57 to care for my mother. But that isn't an option for a lot of people. And the fact is, yes, there has been financial impact for me and all of us who step away or who reduce our work or say, no, we can't. I have a friend who was the heir apparent for the director's job for DSS. And she said, I have a father who has Alzheimer's, and I have a mother who is beginning to have problems, and I can't do that. So we have all of those missed opportunities and missed work. And so the financial impact is on average $300,000 over a lifetime for individuals. Again, generalized over the course of an entire career in life. But that's $300,000 that people have lost in lost wages, in loss of Social Security, loss of retirement. And then on the flip side, for the corporate corporate world, the toll is in the billions, and that is with a B, of loss of staffing, loss of employees, loss of workforce, and the effort that is given because of caregiving. So this is a multi-pronged toll on individuals, on families, on communities, on our corporate world. Tons of challenges, tons of complexities that we have not figured out, and we are at the beginning, but we are moving quickly into this world of, oh my word, how do we do this? Because this is not sustainable.
It's not. And then also you add in, for most caregivers, they don't live close to their parents. And so, they're trying to, on the weekends, manage things, or in the evenings, if it's close enough that they can get down there. And so, you just have that added layer of complexity to caring for parents. Though it can be the most wonderful, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. And then there is a health issue, that caregiving takes a toll health-wise. I will always be convinced that my mother's diagnosis of a rare form of cancer was directly related to the strain of caregiving for her mother. So yeah, I mean, just lots of complexities.
Yes, absolutely. And what I like about ACAP is that you have really worked hard to create a curriculum that is well thought out, but you took it a step farther and it had it nationally validated. And what does that mean to have a curriculum that's nationally validated?
What that means is that we started with doing a research of the literature as to what are the issues that caregivers need. But then when we put the curriculum together, we didn't stop there. We sent it out, and more than 100 people across the country, both professionals as well as caregivers, said, yes, these are programs that really make sense for us. This is what we need. Or there were some that they said, not so important, not resonating. So that's what that means.
Okay, wonderful. So if a caregiver would like to attend, how do they locate a chapter?
The easiest way is to go to our website, www.acapcommunity.org. Yes, it's right there. To go onto the website, you will see across the top, in the top banner, you'll see something that says locate my chapter or something along those lines. Click on that and it will show you all of the chapters. Our Wilmington chapter, or the chapter in Wilmington and Atlanta, are just forming, so they are not yet there. But yeah, that's where they would find their chapters.
Wonderful. So as we wrap up, I always like to ask my interviewees, what is a key piece of advice that you would give caregivers?
The key piece that I would say is put together a team. Find at least one person who really gets it, who really understands what you're going through. But also be sure that you have a team of people around you, the medical people, clergy, if that is where you are, the family, that you have a group of people who really support you, can guide you, can give you insight and information, and can help track down what you need or what is needed. The other thing is to know that regardless of the situation, there are going to be challenges and joys, regardless of who you are, what your background is, what your education level is, what your career is, what your finances are. There always are going to be the joys of being journeying with a parent or a loved one. There also are going to be challenges.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. And if somebody would like to reach you, what's the best way to do that?
Again, on our website, you can go to our Contact Us page and get in touch with me that way. Otherwise, I am at F Hall, as Francis Hall, F Hall at ACAPcommunity.org. And our telephone number is 877-599-2227.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Frances. It's been a joy to interview you, and thank you for sharing this information with our caregivers.
Ashley, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity and to share and for sharing ACAP.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's all the time we have for today. We thank you for watching, and we hope that you found this information beneficial. For more information on the programs and services offered through ADTS, you can visit our website at adtsrc.org or give us a call at 336-349-2343. We thank you again for joining us today. And remember that ADTS is here to help you and your loved one age with dignity and independence in your home and community. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to At Home with ADTS. For over 45 years, Aging, Disability, and Transit Services of Rockingham County has focused on enhancing quality of life for individuals by empowering them to achieve optimum health and well-being, independence, and participation in community. To learn more about community-based services, resources, or how to help, visit adtsrc.org or call 336-349-2343.